Hello, you have reached the Mouse and Weens podcast. This is episode 78, season 3. And today we get together and talk about folklore in our childhood. Are these stories that were real? How do we remember them? Why? Who was this Godmother person? What is her connection to the Empire State Building? We have a lot of questions, so we get our mom on the phone to give us the truth, and it ends up being a big competition between sisters at the end. So take a listen. And if you guys didn't already know, my sister is an amazing musician. You've got to stay till the song at the end. This one is so good. Go to our website, www.mouseandweens.com, for all of our links and show notes. And please just follow us on social media and tell your friends. This is the number one way that we get out there. We appreciate everything. Remember, you can go on patreon.com/mouseandweens to listen to this episode ad-free. And we hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for listening. Here we go. So it should be good.
Mouse and Weens and a mouse and Weens.
Okay. Ready? Do you want to do our 1, 2, 3? One, 2, 3. Start. Do we do it? Hi. Welcome to Mouse and Weens. We have another guest. We're doing lots of guests during this quarantine. We've decided it's a fun way to go. I'm Mouse. I'm the mom one down in San Diego. Who else is here? Raise your hand. We're on YouTube also. We're doing a video.
Me.
Who's
I'm
me?
I'm the mom of Mouse and Weens. I birthed both of you.
Yay. It's our mom, Joyce. She's here live from Idaho. And Weens.
Hi, I'm also here representing the Idaho.
She's got a cool shirt that says Idaho across.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Chesticles.
Not entirely video.
Yay! Everybody looks so nice. We decided to all come together because we were chit-chatting about, Weens and I were chit-chatting about our childhood, and we were recalling some funny memories and wanted to get mom's firsthand point of view on some of our good stuff. But yeah, so we're going to go into some old stories. Does everybody like that idea? Does that sound fun?
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I put together little notes so I could
Did you?
I did.
This is
Mom,
official.
you look so pretty. You're a real flower, a sunflower, I'd say.
Aww.
I know. She does her hair and everything.
I
Yeah,
did there.
Do you do it every day?
No, I was wearing a ball cap out working in my garden and cleaning the barn. Where are you going?
Sorry. Well, apparently I'm older. I keep trying to get the lines out of my face by changing the lighting. That's more of a frontal view?
That looks good.
I'll stick with that. Because if you do a shadow, then suddenly this jowl shows up very prominently. Front lighting.
That's right. The marionette lines, our dermatologist aunt would tell us.
And
Yes.
they filled my marionette lines
With
Really?
what?
with
Marble?
marionette filler.
Really?
Sawdust, Pinocchio style.
With it.
Aw, you guys are great. This is the family that I love. And I remember you guys from when I was a child also, which brings us back to the point. I like to stay on topic. Mom, what was it like delivering that young tot at the ranch house?
Okay, we did not deliver her at the ranch house. We delivered you at the ranch house.
Oh yeah, you weren't there.
Yeah.
You were in Arizona.
Yeah.
You want to direct this interview? I'm sorry.
but-
I'm gonna stay in the background.
South in a hurry.
I've been writing. I'm very weird in my brain. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So what my notes were about was your godmother, Dee Raskob.
Yeah.
Would you like me to tell you the whole story that goes with her?
Yeah. So let's set the scene. So it's about 1976, 5.
Excuse me.
Born in 75.
Sorry. Okay, Mom.
That's
you
what
just,
I was trying to set the scene. That's why I started with the birth. I thought that was the
know.
origin story. I just forgot that you weren't there.
Well, let's just let Mom talk because we clearly.
Okay, Mom, will you
don't know
just
what
tell
was
why
happening.
were you in Pleasanton, California? Where did you
Okay.
live, and
Your-
who did you meet?
Okay, your dad and I went to the University of Arizona. He then went and played some pro ball, and he was playing against the Oakland Raiders. He had occasion to go out into the East Bay, and so he
Pro ball means football with who?
football with New York Jets. And I was in Long Island, and he called me and he goes, I found this really pretty town called Danville, California. I think you and I should live there. So that precipitated our whole move to Northern California. We moved into a little tiny apartment.
Wait, why? Because he wanted to play against the Oakland Raiders? I'm sorry, I checked out for a second.
He was playing against the Oakland Raiders, and he went out to the East Bay for dinner, and he found this little town called Danville. He called me in Long Island. He said, I think we should live there. So that's how we moved to Northern California. Moved to Danville. I was pregnant with Julianne. We were living in a little tiny apartment, and she wanted, your dad wanted to get out of the apartment because he's big and it was a little tiny apartment, and we wanted to live in the country. So we drove around.
Can I ask a question though?
Sure.
Well, how come you could move away from New York?
Because
the career was not going so well there?
Right. He got put on injured waivers, which means you have to leave the team and leave where you're living and go back to wherever you can earn a living. So that's when, instead of going back to Tucson, we decided to go to Northern California. So that's how we ended up in Danville. Then we wanted to live in the country. So we drove around out in the country, and we found this huge house on top of this mountain. And we decided whoever lived in that house probably had other places. And so your dad drove up to the top of this mountain and dropped me off on the front porch. And he went down the mountain and left me there. And I was super pregnant with you, Julianne. Like, you weighed 11 pounds and 9.5 ounces. So even at
how big are you?
Right now I'm shrinking.
5'2"? So I was a very large. Yeah. So he left you there to do the dirty work because you're a pregnant woman, and it was more desperate.
And it would be more healing. So I knocked on these humongous doors that were like 10 feet tall, all hand carved from the Philippines. And I heard this little pitter patter, and the door opens, and on the other side is Dee Raskob. And she goes, yes. And I go, hi, my name is Joyce, and we want to live in the country, and do you have any place that we might be able to rent from you? And she looked at me, and we sat down on the front porch together, and we started talking. And it was a solid hour of her just talking and visiting with me. And she goes, yes, I have a little house down on the flat on the ranch. So I said, we'll take it. And she goes, well, it's kind of really run down. And I said, that's fine, I'll work on it, whatever it takes to get out into the country. So we went home. Your dad picked me up, or actually I walked down the mountain a little ways and met your dad. Then
I am really upset about this news, by the way.
Then she called me the next day, and she said, I would like for you to come back out to the ranch and bring your husband. So I did. And instead of going down to this little crummy farmhouse, we turned right onto this nice driveway. And she had just built her daughter a house, but the daughter didn't want to live there. And she took me into it and said, what do you think of this house? And I burst out in tears. And then she started crying. And then we hugged each other, and she goes, you can live here, and it'll cost you $200 a month. And that was it. So that's how we ended up on the ranch.
Was that cheap at the time, or was that expensive?
No, that was real affordable. She
Okay.
could have gotten tons of money for it because it was, on
A house.
160 acres. 230 acres was what it was.
Really?
So,
And it
yeah.
was a ranch on the top of a hill, and I remember it was surrounded by, we had a little racetrack, a horse stable at the bottom, and it was very country.
Very fancy, actually. It had a swimming pool for racehorses, so they had a ramp that they could put the racehorses in. It had a 1/4-mile track for exercising. It had round pins and hot walkers and the whole thing. And she had bought that ranch for her daughter, and her daughter decided she didn't want to have anything to do with horses. And in the meantime, her husband passed away. So she was on this huge ranch with all this horse facility and nobody to help her with it.
So who was her husband? Because he was kind of a
Okay.
famous guy.
So backing up, her father-in-law was John Jacob Raskob. And their family was from Delaware, as were the DuPonts and the Astors. And they all lived together. They took up the whole state of Delaware, basically. And they were all the huge magnates that built all the U.S. Steel and all the big buildings. And the way that he got into it, family were Germans. He was a secretary. He went to work for DuPont as a secretary, but he was such a financier that he invested all of his money and DuPont's money in all these really solid investments and ended up making millions and millions of dollars. So that's how he got into the business, and he ended up building the Empire State Building himself. And he was one of the principals in U.S. Steel.
That is probably a hard job with did he have a lot of nails and a belt? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. It's by himself.
But what he did though, he built it. They said that he took a pencil and put it on its eraser end, and then leaned back in his chair and decided how tall he wanted the building. And his architect was there, and he said, "Can you build me the tallest building in the United States? I want it this tall." And the architect went to work, and they did it. But it was right before the Great Depression. So after it was all done, nobody moved in. And so they called it the Empty State Building instead of the Empire State Building. And then, of course, he's turned around and he filled it up and became just humongously rich. And he ended up being the chairman of the Democratic National Convention.
Wow.
And he himself funded Alfred J. Smith, who was the guy who ran against Theodore Roosevelt.
Oh, wow.
And Roosevelt won. Is that the right Roosevelt? Franklin Delano. I don't remember which Roosevelt it was. But anyway.
FDR.
Yeah. The whole point of this was he became very rich. His friends were the Astors and the DuPonts. So they all lived on the same highway in Delaware. They came from huge Catholic families. Robert, was one of 13 children. The DuPonts had 15 children. The Astors had 12. And they would all get together on Friday nights in a barracks, and they would have pillow fights. And the nannies and the butlers would wait for these kids, and there would be like 30, 35 kids with pillow fights, and they would fill the whole barracks with feathers. And then the kids would all separate and go their merry way. And this is a story from Dee. They would go, the maids and the nannies and the butlers would go and collect all the feathers and put them back in pillows for the next Friday night.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the cutest?
How funny.
And so they wouldn't sew up the ends of the pillows very well. They would just make them to where when they started beating, all the feathers would fly. And that was one of the best memories that Robert Raskob had his whole life, with the pillow fights in the barracks. Isn't that cool? And then they moved to California. The Raskob family had silver mines in Nevada. That was one of their big investments. So Dolores Dee was raised by a foreman on the railroad, the Southern Pacific Railroad. And her mom was a little French lady, first generation, barely spoke English.
And can I just say, Dolores always reminded me of kind of like Meryl Streep or something. She has that real angular face, kind of that thin
I
nose.
think she looks like Faye Dunaway.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of like flatter features with a real aquiline nose.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Anyway.
She very pretty, very fit, and her dad, she was raised in a boxcar. The railroad would just pull their trains off a siding, and the foreman would hire all the Hispanics to work on the railroad, and Asians, Chinese, and they built the railroad systems. And Dee was just raised in a train car, and her mom was this little French lady, and she cooked in a little tiny what did they call them, hot plates. She only had hot plates to cook on, but still did French cuisine. And so
Why French?
Say again.
She was French. The mom was French.
Right. So Dee was super fluent in both French and Spanish, because all of her friends were the kids of the workers who were laying the tracks. And so she was very, very humble, raised, very frugally, no money at all. And she went to work in a little Nevada town, and I think it was Tonopah, Nevada. And she was working in a hardware store, and she was on a ladder reaching screws or nails or whatever, and Robert Raskob came walking in. He had been at his silver mine, and he walked into this hardware store, and he looked up and saw her, and he goes, I want to get to know her. And she flounced down, and she was always very
well coiffed,
secure, very, and coiffed. And they kind of hooked up, and she had no idea that she was marrying a billionaire.
Wow.
But they ended up getting married in the Royal Hawaiian Hotel in Oahu, the Pink Hotel, the old one. That's where her wedding was. And they came back to California. I remember setting the table with her many times at the ranch house. Her fancy, she had a butler's pantry, and she had a table that seated 20, and I'd be helping her put down her silverware, and it was all hand done from her own silver mine in Nevada, and it had their initials and the Raskob silver mine on the back. And it was like, whoa. And all of her hollowware was from her silver mine. And then when they moved to California, they wanted to get involved in charity, and they were very involved in Catholic Charities anyway. So Robert went over to Holy Names College it must be Piedmont, maybe? It's in the Bay. And found little children were not being taken care of for disabled children from 3rd grade to 8th grade. So he built them their own school and funded everything. And that's how Dee was always involved in the Catholic Charities through Holy Names College.
Yeah, they call it Holy Names University, and it's listed in Oakland.
Oakland. Okay, so right on the border there.
And she must have given millions of dollars to them, right?
It was interesting. He did the whole building, and then they would do fundraisers. So I don't know how much he did out of pocket, but then he passed away, and Dee wanted to stay real involved in it. So she was always finding clothes to give to them, or doing fundraisers, or having black tie events. And on that note, black tie, one time we had to do this big fancy black tie in San Francisco, and I was engaged to Denny. I think I was engaged. And he was—
That's the cowboy.
Yes, he was looking so styling. He had his black hat and a tuxedo shirt and a morning coat on, and so cool. And we get to this black tie affair, and he has an occasion to lean back in his chair, and Dee reaches over and whacks the back of his chair to sit him forward again. And he kind of, whoa. And then as it proceeded, he put his elbows on the table, and she reached over and whacked his tables and get your elbows off the table. And so he's like, what the? And then they served the first part of the meal, and I think it was a salad. And he started to eat, and she reached over with her fork to get like a black olive or something off of his salad plate. And he took his fork, the back of his fork, and whacked her hand with it. He said, you have your own salad. And I'm going, oh my God. And it's all black tie. You're just going, ah. But she ended up loving the ground he walked on. She just thought he was the best thing ever. But how we made it through that meal, I'll never know.
And she sort of attached herself to you as almost like a daughter, and you kind of like, she was like almost like a mother figure, right? Because you were new and with a baby and little me running around. So.
Part of it, I think, she did not have good relationship with her two adopted daughters. They were real connected to her husband and not her. And I never heard the real story why they didn't have their own children, but they couldn't for whatever reason. And I came along right after he had died, and she didn't have relationships with her kids. And I think it was kind of the perfect match.
And why did they, because she lived in we were all pretty isolated up there. So why would she live there? Why did all of us?
Well, because she had that racehorse ranch that she had gotten for her daughter, and her husband helped facilitate that. And then she stayed there for, I don't know, 2-3 years, and then put it on the market. And that's when she moved into town. And that's when we all moved to Fountainhead, is when she sold the ranch.
Was that devastating to you, or were you happy to get out of the country?
Well, it was pretty, it was just you and your sister and me most days. And your dad would go to work and come home. We had one car. We had a moped. We didn't do much. We did hikes, and I took the two of you down to Niederholzer's corner, the old schoolhouse, and then we'd walk back. And so I was kind of glad to get to go to town.
So you were quarantining before it was cool.
I know. I didn't know any better. I loved it. I had chickens, and you guys, my other two chickens. Yeah, Oscar the cow. And it was great. I think it was pretty good space to raise you guys in. It was healthy. We were outside all the time. And yeah.
Did we get visitors at all? His family would come, right? Dad's family?
Uh-huh. And I would make a lot of spaghetti because that was about all we could afford. And every now and then Mormon missionaries. And one time I was nursing you, and I had the world's biggest boobs, and they were always making extra milk. So I shoved like towels down my shirt and waiting for you to wake up because you were always hungry. And I opened the door, and there were these two missionaries, and I had all this towel stuffed down my shirt, and I had forgotten because I just walk around with it during the day, and they kind of go, ah. But yeah, not a whole lot of visitors.
Oh,
That's cute.
But we'd go down and visit our neighbors, and it was good. I liked it. I liked living there. I liked raising you guys there.
Yeah, it was really cute. How was it not having two cars though? I mean, you would jump, we had a moped, right?
We got that after we were there for quite a while, because if there was an emergency, I didn't have any way to get you guys to a doctor or to an urgent care center. And it kind of got kind of freaky when you guys were real active. And so we got the moped, and your dad would take that to work and then come home. But we had so little money that I didn't spend any time bebopping around in the car because it was gas money. So I didn't use it all that much. I'd go to McCullough's and buy you guys some fabric and make your dresses. I know I sound like Little House on the Prairie, but it really was kind of
This
that
is
way.
where it all
your daughter
started
loves
for me.
that idea.
Yeah,
I know.
these are my favorite memories, just being out like climbing the hill like little baby Carrie in the opening scene of Little House on the Prairie. We had these big grassy hills and picking wildflowers and going for big hikes.
That's it.
You sewing clothes and me.
Right. We had huge live oak trees, and the limbs would come down real close to the ground, so you guys could climb onto the branches. You didn't have to go up a trunk to get to climbing territory.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just sat at your feet and would play all day and hike and climb and cook and just a little domestic life. Hey, Mom, the way you're sitting right now is so cute because the plates behind your head make it look like you have little Mickey Mouse ears on. Are you seeing that, Julianne?
Yeah, it's so cute.
Yeah, we could turn this into a drinking game. Every time Mom looks like Mickey Mouse, take a drink. All right, everybody? Sorry, derailing. Go ahead, Mama. Yeah, and what were some other okay, I have a question.
I remember the Doobie Brothers coming over. Oh, sorry.
When Dee decided to put the house on the market, the Doobie Brothers came up because they needed a studio house, and it was super quiet out there. And I don't think they ever put an offer in on it, but they were going to use our house where I raised you guys as the studio, and then Dee's big mansion on the hill as their actual house. But they ended up selling it to another big racetrack firm, and they turned it into a killer horse place.
Wow.
I mean, they really upgraded everything.
Do you remember the Doobie Brothers? Because that's always fun. I thought he put me on his lap, the main Doob.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm sorry. But I remember Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Coming over?
No, calling on the phone all the time for you.
Oh. Did he really? That's so funny. Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Or are you sure it wasn't Tree? Tree was my buddy, and Flea was her buddy.
Oh. No, it was Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Stories for another time.
Hey, Mama, how come
what is that?
Yeah, there you go. It looked like it had a filter.
Well, it won't stay because the quarter just fell out that was holding it. It's my sewing light, and I'm making it do things that it normally doesn't do. So.
Wait, I'm going to look up the Doobie Brothers. Was it Michael McDonald? Was he the main Doob? Or am I thinking of a different band? He was. Okay. Cool. Will you sing us a little Michael McDonald? Can you sing for us?
Julianne will, because
Sure.
Which, on that note, I put together my playlist.
For what?
I realize that I'm very eclectic. Okay, wait. I gotta get my Mickey Mouse ears going again.
Okay, do you want to hear some of the main Doobie Brothers
Yeah.
songs?
Yes.
Fire away.
Whoa, bop. I listen to the music.
Oh, that's
What a fool to believe.
Really?
Now, my favorite, I really do love the song Blackwater. Oh, Blackwater, keep on going. Mississippi woman, won't you keep on shining on me? Do you know that one, guys?
yes.
I know
Actually,
that one.
I do. Very good, Julianne. How do you know all that?
I just pulled up Spotify.
Oh,
I
that's good.
just
Hey, Mom,
wanted
have you been using my Spotify?
Who's talking?
Uh-oh.
Mom. No, we're here. We were just waiting for you to answer. Do you use Julianne's Spotify?
Yes, constantly.
Is that a problem for you,
You're
Julianne?
stalling out, Joe.
I am? You guys are fine on my end.
No.
This is
You're like
exciting.
you'll be a weird.
This is what I did.
Mom did use my Spotify and told me, and it was 1970s Ranch House was the one that. Remember, Mom, you used my Spotify for the first time, and it was called 1970s Ranch House. Isn't that cute?
Aw.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
You used, oh yeah. I did. That was the first playlist that I put together was yours. Yeah.
And you called and you were really excited. And you said, I have a conversation now about this.
Thank you. So you guys asked me to put together a playlist. So I have. It's 2 pages long. And there is no stopping me. I like so many songs.
For your funeral?
Well, that too, but I was actually going to put it on my phone so I could have it for CarPlay.
Oh, sorry. Because we had a conversation about your eulogy and all that.
Actually,
okay.
I was thinking about it being part of that celebration, but
what if it's just 2 pages of songs? So, and then we'll be listening to Gordon Lightfoot, everyone says. And then we will be listening to.
You better, leave some
the Pips just for 2 hours.
Please leave really specific instructions so we don't mess this up. Yeah, we need help. We could dress up like the Doobie Brothers.
It's just one playlist.
What if we got really into it and I dressed up like Michael McDonald? I had the white hair, the eyebrows, chest
At
hair.
her funeral?
Yeah, we could do a whole spectacle. We could do the 1970s playlist in costume.
You're usurping her mother.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mom.
Can we do it before I die so I can laugh at you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That would probably be a better.
Tuesdays with Mommy.
You're funny.
That was dumb. Sorry, go ahead.
I have one other story about the ranch. We had a barbecue, which we did often, and we were all out under our huge live oak tree. And I looked at the limb and I go, what is that? And there was a huge snake.
California
it ended
king
up
snake.
being 7 feet long. And everybody scattered from the barbecue. But I got to say, your dad saved the day. He went over and caught the snake and took it down to the other part of the ranch.
Ugh.
But anyway, that's all.
God, was it a gopher snake?
Yeah, but it was huge.
Yeah.
It made the limb look like it was moving.
I feel like I remember that, but I don't know if it's because I've heard the story or if I really do remember it.
You probably would, because Julianne was probably 2. You would have been 5.
Yeah, I remember it pretty well.
Do you? I have such weird little flashy memories from that place. Like sitting on the side of the house by the big air conditioning unit and a jumping spider jumping on my finger and biting me and being like, ah. And then losing my first tooth, riding my bike for the first time, and learning how to whistle on my 6th birthday. I remember sitting on a log or a rock or whatever it was. Or no, I know what it was. It was that big propane tank or
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
we had
Yeah.
out front. I was sitting on that and I taught myself how to whistle out there.
That's cute.
And it was on my 6th birthday, so I was very proud of myself.
Julianne, do you remember your pictures of you underneath an umbrella? You were dressed in your little raincoat and you were crying.
Yes, because I stepped in a puddle and I got wet.
It was so sad.
I was always crying. Why? All my pictures are of you guys laughing and me crying. Why is that? My dead frog, everyone in the background, all the adults laughing and me crying with my dead frog. Harry Larry, by the way. And the puddle?
Harry Larry came all the way from Lake Tahoe to Danville.
I can't even talk about it. It's another sad animal death story.
You were hearted.
Mother, continue. I forget. Do you have any more stories on your list?
I have some photo memories. We like to flip through the photo book and have memories. I remember Dad bringing home a big laminated board from school where he worked as a PE teacher and running a hose down it and making it into a water slide.
Oh, yeah.
So we had two. We had the mud slide that actually went down into a ditch he dug and filled with water, so it was real mud. But then he made the other one that went into a big baby pool of some sort. And I just remember being traumatized and like staring at the picture of Julianne because we realized the best way to slide down this water slide was bare skin. But you had a little t-shirt on, Julianne, and Dad took a picture from behind. So it's just you sitting there on the top of the slide in a t-shirt with your bare butt. And the way it was like squished and it made like little baby cellulite. I remember just staring at that picture. Like
You've always been like that.
Staring at the butt picture. Fascinated. And what were those dimples? So many of them.
You have always been like that. You're obsessed with people and like weird like pock marks on their legs or dimples on their butts or like weird veins in their fingers. Always. What's wrong with it?
I don't know.
It's a physiology.
Maybe. Yeah, I can totally remember everybody's hands. I remember Grandma and Grandpa's hands, Grandma Carter or Grandpa, all the grandparents. I just remember their hands, like staring at, the veins. And
you probably stared like this. This is what I remember my whole childhood, staring and then this face.
Her nose is kind of squinched up.
My whole childhood growing up.
Her mouth was turned down.
Oh, yeah.
Like a disgusted looking down her nose face.
The stink face. Just like a horrified stink face. My whole childhood.
Hey, I got a pretty good frown there.
Don't you remember that, Mom?
Hello? Come in, Mom.
Joelle, you keep pausing.
I'm sorry.
Is there a question in there?
We have 5
awkward.
people in this house and we have about 10 devices. Everyone's using Wi-Fi at the same time. Oh, this interview is going south, but I love all these...
just like, I could tell that you're trying to ask, please continue.
I waited. The etiquette was there. You'll see when we put this all back together. You'll be like, oh, it totally flowed fine. It just seems like it's not. And then Mom is slowly dimming herself out with her light.
I know. This is called a slow fade.
I'm out of here.
Light. It's not cooperating. There it goes again. Anyway, I have one last story.
Okay, do tell.
We had chickens. Do you remember those chickens?
Let's talk about the chickens. This just came out the other day and Julianne didn't believe me. Yeah, talk about the chickens.
Okay, so we had chickens and we had a dog run and that's where we kept the chickens. And anytime I got a chance, I'd go lay down on the chaise lounge outside and you guys would diddle around and play in the dirt and collect bugs and whatever. And one time I had my toenails painted red and they came up. We had strawberries, and they got the strawberry plants mixed up with my toes, and they started pecking on my toenails. And you, Joelle, started crying. You thought that they were going to eat my toes, and I didn't want to scare the chickens, so I just kind of like moved my feet a little bit, and I wanted to run and hug you, but you were devastated.
I have had a fear of things nibbling my hands and toes. And I think it was because Shelby, that lived down the hill from us, told me a story, and we were just 4 or 5. And somebody like ate salami and then fell asleep with their hand off the bed, and a rat came and ate their fingers off.
Oh, God.
So I could never sleep with my fingers or toes off the bed. And so maybe there was a connection there with the chickens. I was like, this is it.
Sure.
She stuck her toes in salami, and now it's over. I don't know. It doesn't
You
make
also
sense.
passed down that story to me, thank you. So I still can't sleep with my hands or toes.
I'm sorry.
It's one of those early fears that you can't get rid of. Mom, now I thought you were not liking the ranch as much after a while. The upsides were all the nature and everything, but the downsides, it was just, I mean, was it a good life overall?
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
What did we do? Can you tell me what?
Yeah.
This is Tuesdays with Mommy. Was it a good life?
I'm always,
Sorry.
well, because I'm confused. I just have pictures, and that's all I remember. So
we called it the Flying J, and that was
because we were all Jays,
right. And it was just, yeah, it was simple. It was nice. We rode bikes a lot. We went down to the old schoolhouse. They had an old rickety swing set down there.
By the way, it's an 1800, like turn of the century schoolhouse. That's a one-room schoolhouse that people used to actually go to school in. And then nobody was going to school there when you lived there, right?
By the time they had retired it and turned it into a little historical site.
And that's where the bus picked up Joelle for school, right?
Right. And right across the street from there was Niederholzer's nursery, day school, whatever she called it. And Joelle got to go there.
What did people do for work? I'm always confused about how, would they go into the main San Ramon Danville town? I mean, Dublin and.
Yeah. And it really wasn't that far. In today's trip, it was 6 miles to town. There was just nothing between the ranch and town. Now it's completely built up.
And I'll bet you there are millions of dollars, those places back there, because you can't get land.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a whole different ballgame.
Mom, back to the chickens. Is it true that we had 2 roosters and we had to kill a rooster, and it was Jim and Dad running around with a dull axe?
Yes.
Okay.
That is true.
But they probably thought it was funny because they were like adult baby men,
they
right?
probably fed off of each other, but I don't think either one of them liked the deed.
Well, why would you do that?
Because roosters were pecking on each other all the time, trying to establish dominance. And
Did we eat it though?
No.
Yes, we did. They gave you one of the dead ones, and you plucked the feathers and had to stick it in a pot of boiling water, I thought. And it was tough. You put it in the oven. And I remember everyone saying it was tough.
I doubt if I picked any feathers off of it. It might have been delivered to the kitchen and said, why don't we try cooking this? And I had no idea what to do with it. I would imagine that's probably how it went down.
Really? All right.
You don't have that memory?
I don't remember ever picking feathers off of anything.
Really? Okay. Maybe I confused it with Little House on the Prairie.
The usual.
I'm really Laura.
Oscar the cow. Do you remember going down to see him all the time?
Yes.
Julianne, do you remember that?
I want to forget because didn't we eat him? Yeah.
Well, we never heard the real story that went with it, but then one day there were packages of beef on the front porch.
And Oscar disappeared that same day?
Yeah.
Huh.
Oscar was gone. So somebody just walked in the door.
Oh, is that the cowboy? Oh, let's see his
mustache.
mustache. Make him stick his mustache in the frame.
He said, that's the stuff you're going to have to edit. And he's walking out the front door.
Bring him in here. Tell him.
Grab him by
please.
his mustache and drag him over.
Put that lasso around him.
They want to see you.
Will you just poke your little head in the corner?
He's wandering this way.
All
Oh,
right.
boy.
Okay.
This will be the best sighting ever. Get
Yeah.
down, Sam.
Yeah, bend down. We got to see your face.
Oh, no.
No.
Cowboy D.
We
Cowboy
don't want to
D.
see your torso. That's not exciting.
Squat.
There's the yellow shirt. That's me.
Squat down.
Why
Squat
are you in
down.
the yellow shirt?
My
Come
knees
on.
Danny, keep going.
No.
Danny, come on.
There he is. Hi.
Oh, I got Guys.
That's really him. He didn't flip us off or anything.
No.
Oh,
Oh.
that's cute. He was standing there. What did he come in from work or was he coming in from the barn?
He said he's COVID-19 nice right now. He came down the driveway when you and I were talking, and then he went out to the barn and put the horses, I don't know what he did with the horses, but it's really pretty spring day today.
Oh,
and
nice.
all my flowers are starting to poke their heads up, and a few of them have bloomed. And so,
Oh, it's
yeah.
a nice life in Idaho.
You know, this time of year, it starts getting light for a long, long time. What?
The
Why
shirt.
are you smiling? Yes, Idaho. I could put the mine on. We could be 20s. Joelle, do you want an Idaho shirt?
If you have extra one lying around, sure, but you don't need to sequin out. I know you've.
Okay, guys. I hate
Yes.
to bother you, but let's keep this on track. Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
I would like to talk about colors of Idaho shirts for a while, please. Can we continue on that track? Just kidding. Mom, you did a great job raising me. Thank you so much. I don't know about this one down here.
What about me?
I'm kidding. Thank you for putting in all the country time.
Hey, Mom, child. Oh, good. I like this. Talk about me for a little bit. Baby.
It's the wrong
But
answer. You didn't sleep.
still.
Yeah,
Was I more fun though?
but then so
More fun? Was I a better hugger?
you did love to cuddle.
More than this one?
I don't. Yeah, sure.
What did I do better than her? Anything?
Why are you pointing down? I'm up. Just kidding.
You're different everywhere.
I know.
I'm gonna say that you were an entertainer. You were an entertainer, even as a baby.
Like a
You-
dork? Would you laugh
were-
at me or with me?
Well, you knew that you could get a reaction by
Mm.
doing cute little things, even in your high chair. You would like that.
So it's like a trained seal. Nothing's changed much.
And
Just not getting paid for
so
it.
you were always good at that.
Hmm.
Really at throwing a ball. Pretty good.
Good skills that don't really go very far in life. That's good.
Baby. I mean,
Sister, do you want to know anything about yourself? You were great, apparently.
I was great. I saved your life one time when you fell in the bathtub
that's true.
at the
Tell the
ranch.
story, Joelle.
You toddled in and you wanted to see what I was doing, and you toddled right over the edge of the bathtub head first, and I had to hold you up like Atlas held up the world, and I screamed, "Mama!" And you were heavy and you were crying and wet, and I was just my little mousy arms hanging on to this.
Aw.
And I thought if I dropped you, you would die, certainly. So
We should reenact that photo for the website now.
oh my God, that means I would have to be naked. And
So would I, dripping and wet above
Yeah.
your head.
you weren't
Sounds
naked though. You were
fun.
clothed. You came toddling in your clothes, and Mom came running around the corner, and it probably wasn't a big life-saving act, but boy, you made me feel like I saved her life. Like I was
Oh, you did.
a first responder. You made such a big to-do, and I was so proud of myself.
You did save her life, and we're going to stick with that story.
So Weens,
I like it.
you owe me one.
Got that, Julianne?
Yeah. No, I've been hearing that from about that age on. A lot of years of that story. Thank you. Again, now I can finally perform my high chair act for the rest of my life. I'm so glad I was saved. Thank you. Working well. Thanks, guys.
The high chair act, for those of you that only have audio, is her blinking and banging her head in a odd way while sticking her tongue in and out. That was the move of a high school high chair Weens. Kind of like a little frantic frog licking at a fly while blinking.
This interview right away. All right, thank you for being here, Mother.
It was fun. I feel like I'm with both of you. And I didn't have to. What?
Can we come back around really quick? Why did we call Dee our godmother? She wasn't officially there when we got baptized or a godmother or anything, right?
Well, because we didn't have any others.
It was
she plugged herself in that way.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if there was any official capacity there.
She was a very nice godmother, and I do remember having to wear our sweaters often. She scared me every time I went out without a sweater. I would feel this ping of her because she would scream, "Put on it!" Right?
Oh, and zip you up. And she would zip you with your little pink jacket that had the hood with the fur around it. She would zip it clear up underneath your chin and then tighten down the drawstring. And
just a little Ralphie in the bunny suit. Christmas story.
And you just stand there while she did it, like not moving. And
because you guys weren't screamers, so when someone would talk loud, we'd just like little armadillos would freeze.
It was crazy. And we mentioned the name of a couple that lived down the road on Tessera this morning, and she was a huge screamer, Candy.
Really?
She used to scare me, and you guys would just line up behind me.
When were you the most angry at my sister? Did you ever scream at her? Because I really came out like looking like a bad kid here. I want to find some of your flaws.
Wonderful, Julianne. You provided tons of fun in our life and still are.
Her mouth is open and she's looking up at the ceiling. She's so proud of herself.
No, but really, was she ever a little stinker, that one?
She pulled some fast ones.
I knew it.
Not very often.
A little shady. Like.
Yeah, no. You guys are both really easy to be with. The one time in Fountainhead, you decided you were not going to tell me the truth. And
Me?
I'm going to guess you were about 5 years old. And I remember the wallpaper on your wall.
Me?
Yeah, no, Julianne.
This is me? Oh.
Yeah. And so
I was so excited we found something.
I told you, I did the, mean mama and the rotten stare and all that. But honestly, Julianne, I don't think you ever told me a fib after that. You might have pulled some shenanigans, but you never used words to tell me a fib. So it worked.
What did you do to me?
She probably did this. Julianne Elizabeth with her eyeballs going left, right.
Eyes.
Oh, it was so scary. It was like the
what
boa
did
constrictor.
I do to the wallpaper?
That was just a marker of what room you were in. She just remembers the wallpaper. That's why she's saying it was at Fountainhead, because she remembers the wallpaper of the room.
Oh, I thought I lied about wallpaper. I do love this purple paisley. I do. That I secretly did not. I don't
What
know what's
about-
happening.
Mom, you always told us.
Socialize.
You always told the story that I was in the little cubby hole under the stairs, the little cutout luggage space or whatever, swearing at all my dolls. I had tested out all my swear words. Was that me? There, I'll give you
Okay,
one.
that
Weens.
was at the ranch. That was at the ranch.
Oh.
And you were with Allie in that
Oh.
little closet. It was in the hallway. And I had taken all the luggage out and turned it into a dollhouse. And so you two would crawl in there. And I heard you saying, both of you were doing, God damn. And I, what? And I went and threw open the doors. And you both looked like you were testing it, like you had never ever said those words before, but you had heard them, or you were trying it out, and you both got in trouble. And that was,
I always got in trouble with Allie. The two of us together.
always.
Yeah. She would push me and I would push
Is
her.
that the time that I put soap on your tongue?
I don't remember.
Yeah, you deserve that.
Allie wasn't there. She was not there. But so I took you in and I made you stand up on the step at your sink. And I said, you can't talk like that. You were just being sassy, I think. And I had read in Dr. Spock or something, try this soap on the tongue. And I thought, well, that's really, okay, we'll try it. So you being such a good little kid, you just stood there with your arms next to your side. And I said, okay, stick your tongue out. And so you stuck your tongue out. And I rubbed some soap on it. Then you go, hello.
So what do I do now? She's saying with her tongue out. Oh.
So I just poured some water over your tongue. And I said, well, that was really dumb, Joelle. Sorry. It was so stupid. But that, you had done something to wear.
Yeah, I think,
soap on your tongue.
yeah, she really
That make you
did.
feel good, Julianne?
Real good. Thank you. I'll keep them coming.
Oh, Mom, you're such a good mom. We had like,
You're a good mom.
yeah, we had like one big spanking to teach us the one big lesson, and that was it. We were pretty okay.
I
It
didn't
worked out.
was thinking. That was
No, yeah. But there was never a lot. It was always like one big moment, and it was very talked about. Like, okay, now I'm going to spank you because I said that if you do this, there will be a spanking. And it was only like one or two in our whole
Hey,
life.
Mom, did I light the carpet on fire?
You and Johnny Morjic did.
That was Allie's, okay,
Al-
brother. But it wasn't me, right?
May Way.
It wasn't me.
I wasn't there, so I just heard the story. But I do know that you pooped in the hot tub.
Oh, right, that's enough. Now,
And on that note,
okay, now it's been lovely having you. Thanks for showing up. Let's go.
the next episode, we're going to talk about Weens getting back in the dating pool.
Okay, no, don't put me in a pool. I'm like a turtle. I'll just poop. It felt good. All right, now let's say thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mom. Love you. You're
I
the
love
best.
you, Julie. I wouldn't have any other daughters but you two. I just want you
Really?
to know that. And you're special, Julie.
Tweedle dork and Tweedle D.
Good
Wasn't
one.
funny.
Did you hear Mom call you special? You're special.
Oh no.
You are
You're very
What
special.
kind of special?
Yeah.
Do that high chair move
Incredible.
again, and then we'll decide.
Okay, ready?
Uh-huh.
Was
You're
that it?
special. Yes. That was
See?
very good.
Yeah. Thanks. There's a certain kind of special. Yeah.
Oh, we love you. I love
Bye,
you.
everybody.
All
Bye.
right.
Thanks for listening.
We love you, Mom. Thanks for
I don't know
everything.
how to hang up, so you have to do it.
We'll
Push
do
your
it.
leave meeting button.
It's okay.
Leave?
Let's
Don't
just-
worry about it.
Let's
Mom,
stay
it's
on
okay. This is
Wait, let's
like
just
a
see
Saturday Night
what
Live
happens.
skit. Yeah, thank you for listening to Mouse and
Wait.
Weens, everybody. You can find us at www.mouseandweens.com. Thank you for the listeners writing in, and I'm losing my train of thought. At Mouse and Weens everywhere. I'm distracted. Mom's really leaning into this. She really wants to hear about her.
She's really
her
leaning
links.
in.
Wow. I'm sorry.
She doesn't know how to get off of this. So I think don't hang up. Let's just keep this
The
uncomfortable.
leave meeting button. So I was waiting for my turn.
Were you gonna push out?
I was. But
All right.
then she started talking.
I'm sorry.
was-
I have to close it out appropriately. So Mouse and Weens, thank you everybody. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you, Mom. Love you.
You love you.
Bye.
Let's see if she could do it.
Red button.
Are you gonna do it?
And there she goes. She zoomed back into the ether of Idaho. Bye, Mom.
Well, the blinds are finally
Wow.
open, face the
Bye,
outside
Weens.
world again. The frame that held your picture somehow smashed in the heartache. In the pot I had to piss in, rust to catch in the rain. And diamonds don't shine and water ain't wet. When memories can't sting you, just remember to forget. And sun don't mean sunny, and dark don't mean gray. If you close your eyes long enough, it might go